Hello everyone, this is Mike Jenkins and I have set up my lineup of Decepticon Targetmasters. This is pulled from actually several lines, not several, but two or three waves in the current Transformers Generations line. And so we have Scourge, Cyclonus, Misfire, Slug Slinger, and Trigger Happy. Cyclonus is from an earlier wave, and at the time he was released, I believe he was either released in Universe. He was released in Universe because it started off as Transformers Classics, and then it became Universe. And they actually did a really nice Cyclonus here. I love the colors on this Cyclonus. He's got the red piping to make his eyes glow on top of his head here. I don't think I can. Oh, I think it's in the back of his head. And what's special about this Cyclonus is he was released as a Targetmaster. So at that time, with this newer current line, there weren't that many characters in the Transformers Classics. Some fans refer to it as the Chug line. There weren't that many Targetmasters being released, and he wasn't necessarily referred to as a Targetmaster. It's just that his weapon transformed into a robot partner. And his Targetmaster is Nightstick. So Cyclonus was released years ago, or re-released years ago in this current lineup in Transformers Universe. Scourge, who in this lineup of Decepticon Targetmasters, these 5 Decepticons were released in 1987. And they were the first wave of Decepticon Targetmasters. Later years would release more Targetmasters. I think 1988 had double Targetmasters. So the Autobot or Decepticon came with 2 guns that transformed into robots. And, just to make it more special than the year before. And so with these 5 that were released in 87, they all got re-released in the current Transformers Generations line, as they call it. Sometimes I call it Chug or Classics. And Chug stands for, the C is Classics, the H is Henkei, which is the Japanese version of Classics at the time. The U is Universe, and the G is Generations. So as the years went on, I want to say it started in 2007, 2008. It started off as Classics, then it became Universe. Japan had Henkei. After a couple of years, Hasbro and Takara just called it Generations. And then they just did their different waves and different concepts and special sub-waves under the Generations label. Scourge came out, I believe, in Combiner Wars, which is a couple years back. And or Titan's Return. So these 3 guys came out in Titan's Return. Scourge came out in Titan's Return. And the big switch up here is that originally their Targetmasters were guns, or their partners were guns. And in the Titan's Returns line, or Titan Returns, however you say it, Hasbro decided to switch it up and made everybody a Headmaster. So everybody that had a gun that transformed into a robot, instead of their gun transforming, their head transformed. So Scourge here, his target master was Fracas, who I don't have yet. I will somehow get Fracas to complete this set. But Scourge is now a headmaster, and Fracas transforms into his head. Here, Misfire came with Aimless, who transforms into his head. Slugslinger came with Caliburst, and now Caliburst is his head. And Trigger Happy came with Blowpipe, and Blowpipe is now his head. It drove me crazy. It's like, why are you doing this? Just leave the headmasters as the headmasters, and leave the Targetmasters as the Targetmasters. So what ended up happening on the Titan Returns line is the headmaster gimmick just took over, and everybody was a headmaster. Optimus Prime was a headmaster. Hot Rod was Megatron was a head. Like everybody was a headmaster. And I'm like, well, I still want the Targetmasters to be Targetmasters. So what Takara ended up doing was they released these guys as Targetmasters as well. So their heads did transform. But over in Japan, the headmaster gimmick, or the story behind it, was a little different. So the way it worked in Japan was that the Autobot or Decepticon was actually the smaller figure, and they came from the planet Master, and to deal with harsh conditions there, they created these larger, more powerful bodies called transtectors. So the heads connected to the giant bodies, but they were actually all one entity, one robot. And so that's essentially how I'm treating this, because there's this argument that, well, we can't release them with their guns because now you have two versions of the same character. I'm like, okay, well, in this case, sorry to shake the camera so much. In this case, the head of Misfire is Misfire, and then his body is a transtector. That's how I'm treating this. That's how it's gonna go. Or, you know, because I do like the Headmaster feature, and the Headmaster is Misfire, and this is his transtector, and this is Blowpipe. That's how I'm treating this. It's going to be the same thing with Slugslinger. He's the little guy, he's the head, and then he's got a giant transtector body, and then he has Caliburst as his Targetmaster. And then that's the same thing we're going to do with Trigger Happy. Transtector body, that's his head, and then Blowpipe is his Targetmaster. Cyclonus doesn't have a head that detaches. He came from an earlier wave that didn't do that. So there you have that. And then Scourge is just, he's a transtector. And he's got a little, you know, he's got a head that transforms into a smaller version of himself. Some kind of tragic accident, who knows. So I'm going to put it on pause and transform these weapons. And let's see how that goes. So here we are. Our Targetmasters all have their weapons transformed and in hand and ready. At this point, the only one missing, unfortunately, is Fracas, who goes with Scourge. And that's the one thing I have to say about this line is you have these characters that they're releasing that clearly go with other characters. I mean, you're doing right now you have the Headmaster gimmick and the Targetmaster gimmick. They haven't quite done the Power Master gimmick, but I think that's just very looming. I think it's inevitably going to be happening. But what's been happening with this Targetmaster situation is they will release the gun partner, the little guy, separate, and then you have the larger Autobot or Decepticon, or they haven't come out at all, and it's like, are they ever going to release them? Like, what's going on here? And so, you know, I went through a point where I was like, I'm not going to buy these because he's not with his partner, and they probably won't ever release the partner. And then, you know, a year or two later, they actually do. So then it's like, oh, well, I guess I need to go back and get that guy. But now that he's hard to find, or he's like super expensive now. And it's like, Jesus, why are you making it so difficult to release these characters and get them together? Like, all right, I get it. You don't want to put them in the same package. You want to kind of double your return. And, you know, if you buy Misfire, you know, you can sell Aimless later or sell Aimless separate, but just make it so that we know they're coming out at the same time. They're definitely going to get released, you know, because I thought they really just botched it up. Why the hell are you making Aimless the Headmaster? Like, what? I want the gun. When are you doing the gun? Are you ever doing the gun? So I ended up not buying Misfire because I was like, I think they're really screwing up here. I'm not gonna, you know, if they're never gonna release the gun, I just don't know about this. So sure enough, they released the gun like a year or two later, and then Misfire is super expensive now. So he tends to go for like between 60 or 70 bucks, if not more. So, you know, I had to do some special trading to get this guy so I didn't have to pay crazy money. And I'm very thankful for the gentleman that worked it out with me to do the trade. Otherwise, I would have had to pay 70 bucks for this guy. Aimless was easy to find. He was like $9 in the store. And I made sure to get him. And I just figured somehow, someday, I'll get Misfire. And I lucked out, and here we are. Slugslinger was $10. You know, I got him in a deal at Ollie's. They were selling Transformers, like all the old shut down Toys R Us stock. So I was able to get him, and then I was able to get Caliburst, and so he's happy family. Trigger Happy and Blowpipe were the easiest. You know, Trigger Happy was $10 as well in that Ollie's deal, and Blowpipe was on the rack. So thank goodness for him. Fracas and Scourge are the most frustrating because Fracas was released in an exclusive Amazon set or something, and it's super expensive now. So I'm like, how the hell am I going to get Fracas? How am I going to complete this set? So, and then of course, Cyclonus was never re-released to fit in with the other guys, but he actually does fit in pretty well despite being an older Transformer. You can tell that you can tell that Nightstick doesn't follow the mold of the others, but in a way that's good because some of these Targetmasters are starting to get a little repetitive. You know, they're starting to look alike. So, but I digress. There you have it. There is the first wave of Decepticon Targetmasters. I'm very pleased to have this set complete, or mostly complete. Fracas, I'll get you someday. And I just wanted to show these off. And I hope everybody's having a good Sunday. Happy Easter 2020. Ta-ta for now.